Hi there, my name is Miss Townsend and I love math. Welcome to Math with Townsend. This video is for grade 9 students who want more practice preparing for the EQAO. In this video, I will take up questions from a handout I gave you in which there are some EQAO questions. It's the third video related to that handout, and this is the question in that. It says, Alexis works part-time in a clothing store. She's paid an hourly rate of $10.25 per hour and also earns a commission of 3.5% of her total weekly sales. Alexis works at the store 12 hours a week, and if Alexis's goal is to earn $150 every week, what do her total sales need to be? Show your work. So I'm actually going to do this question two different ways. Mathematically, I'm doing the same math both times, but I'm going to do them as once as sort of just a purely use your logic approach, and the other one I'm going to set it up more as sort of a grade 9 equation type problem. So let's think about this. So we know that she wants to earn $150 every week, and we also know that she works 12 hours a week and what her pay is. So we can calculate pretty quickly how much she's going to earn every week based on working 12 hours, and ignore for a minute the 3.5% commission. So she works 12 hours at a rate of $10.25 per hour. So 12 hours at $10.25 per hour equals, so that's just a quick multiplication, 12 hours at $10.25 is $123. Now, if you're not sure about why I'm multiplying, I can set it up like this if you want. So $10.25 for 1 hour is equivalent to what amount in 12 hours? And you can see by proportions that if I just multiply it by 12, then I will find what that missing value is. So $123 is what she's going to earn every week from working those 12 hours. So if she wants $150 in her pay, and she earns $123 just for the 12 hours at $10.25, then that means that there's $27 left to earn. And how else does she make her money? Well, the other way that she makes her money is through this commission. So every time she sells something, she earns 3.5% as part of her salary. So we need to figure out what sales amount would make 3.5% of it equal to $27. So let's think about what that would look like. So first of all, remember that 3.5%, let me give myself some more space here, 3.5%, we need to turn that into a decimal amount, because when we do math with percent, we want it in decimals. So 3.5%, remember percent means parts per 100. So mathematically, 3.5% means 3.5 parts out of 100. And as a decimal, you can see that this is just divide. This is 0.035. So 3.5% of some unknown number is the $27 that she needs to earn. And I need to figure out what that unknown number is. So again, what this statement says is that 3.5% as a decimal, 3.5% of something is going to give her $27, and we need to figure out that something. So how do I find it? Well, this is just a simple equation where my unknown is x, and I need to isolate. And if I'm multiplying by a number to isolate, I would therefore divide by that number. So on both sides of the equation, I'm going to divide by 0.035, because on the left, that will mean that I'm left with just x. And when I punch in 27 divided by 0.035, that will tell me what that unknown is. And the answer I get, hold on, is 771. And since I know my answer is money, 771.43. So I know to round to 2 decimals because this is a dollar amount. So if she has weekly sales of $771.43, then she will get 3.5% of that. 3.5% of that is $27. And when you take that $27 and add it to the 123 that she makes through her hourly wage, you get the total of 150. So her weekly sales must be $771.41. So that is just the way I solve this. May not seem very grade 9 like, but you know, it's not terrible. It was logical and I showed my work, and then I gave a clear answer down here. But let's look at this question again, and this time I'm going to set it up in a little more mathematically maybe pleasant way. I'm going to set up an equation. This is a question about her earning money. So I'm going to set up an equation that represents her earnings. So every week, what are her earnings based on? Well, her earnings would be based on how much time does she work and how much her weekly sales are. Those are the two things that contribute to Alexa's wages. So every hour she works, she earns $10.25. So I'm going to say that T is hours worked, because every hour she works, she makes $10.25. She also gets 3.5% of her weekly sales. So I'm going to let W, because I don't like using S as a variable, it looks too much like a 5. So W is going to be her weekly sales, and she earns 3.5% of that. So remember from the previous part of the video, we use decimals in our math, not the actual percentage. So 3.5%, we already did that calculation, but remember it was 3.5 divided by 100. So she earns 3.5% of her weekly sales. So in 1 week, this would calculate her earnings. How much time did she work in hours, and what were her weekly sales? So there it is as an equation. So now let's substitute what we know. We know that she worked 12 hours, and we know that her earnings she wants are 150. So I'm going to know that her earnings are 150, and I'm going to know that she worked 12 hours. So here's that substitution. Her earnings should be 150. The time she worked would be 12 hours. And the thing I still don't know is W, which is her weekly sales, right? What do her weekly sales need to be? I don't know. And that's why it's still here as an unknown variable. But what I have now is an equation where there's one unknown variable, and all I have to do is solve. So let's solve this equation for W. So first of all, I have some polynomial math here to do. So before I do anything else, I want to clean up all the simple algebra, the polynomial stuff, and I have 1025 times 12. So we did that on the previous page, but I forgot what the answer is. Oh yeah, it's 123. So we know that this equation looks like this. So 150 equals 123 plus 0.035W. And now again, my goal is to solve for W. So I'm going to start equation solving. So here's W, and here's the coefficient or the term where W is. So I can't deal with this until I've removed this part of that right side. So this is 123, and it's a positive number being added. And because it's a positive 123, the way to get rid of that is I'm going to subtract 123. And of course, if I subtract 123 on the right, I have to subtract 123 on the left. So on both sides of the equation, I'm going to subtract 123. So here on the right, what happens is this and this just cancel each other out. So I'm left with just 0.035W. And here, 150 minus 123, that leaves me with 27. And you'll notice we're getting the same values as in the first problem solve, but it looks a little more like the math we did all year. Now here again, I'm trying to solve for W, and I know W is being multiplied by this number, and to remove multiplication, to isolate, we need to divide, and if we divide on the left, if we divide on the right, we need to divide on the left. We need to balance that equation. So what happens on the right is we just get this nice cancellation. So we're left with just W, which is what we want, her weekly sales. And if I type this into the calculator, I get the same number, $771, and I don't remember, hold on, 43 cents. $771.43. and 43 cents. And so now I calculated her weekly sales a little more mathematically. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's more right, but it's more directly related to the sort of math that we wanted you to be doing this year. Don't forget that if you're introducing variables like I did with T and W, then I explained or defined them so that I'm not just suddenly showing up with a T and what does it mean. T is hours worked and W is weekly sales. On the EQAO, I'm quite certain you would get full marks if you use this approach as opposed to this approach. But I wanted to show both because I like when your logic gets you the right answer, and I like demonstrating the sort of math that's really important for grade 9 students to understand. Okay, I hope that helps you and explains the question, and I will make a video on the next question.